I was thinking a bit about how the news cycle functions. And when you look at all the awful things in the news that super scare many of us, and people are sort of panicking because we don't know what the future is, it's worth thinking about how the news cycle has worked over the past year or two. So on May 30th, 2024, Trump was convicted of 34 felonies in New York for falsifying business records. And the way it was presented is that it was over, right? If you go back and you think about how you felt on that day and all the people sharing stories, it was like, okay, he's been convicted, it's over. That was May 30th. On July 27th, Biden debated Trump for the first time, and the debate didn't go great. And then on July 13th, Trump was shot in the ear, and suddenly there was that picture that they sort of staged that looks so, presidential, that they presented as like Trump is going to get elected no matter what. The felony convictions were kind of forgotten by that point, and it was only like a month between those two events. But every time there are these big events, it was presented as both unprecedented and permanent. And you can think of major events over the past 20, 30 years, and many of them were unprecedented. Like think about how the world changed on 9/11. So in the last couple of weeks, we had another unprecedented thing happen where people are like, oh my God, this is going to be the Reichstag moment. Like all these awful things are going to happen. And then a week later, now we're focused on Jimmy Kimmel. And hopefully that's going to cause some pushback. It probably won't, because a lot of it is not being driven by activists or by real world events. It's being driven by the news cycle. And the news cycle seems to just last a few weeks for most things. So people get mad about something, people get tired of listening to it, and then we move on to the next thing, right? And it doesn't really matter how big it is. And like some, trolley podcaster dying is not really in the overall scheme of things that big a thing. The government pressuring for a celebrity to get fired probably is a little bit bigger, but if he gets reinstated, it's also not that big a thing and will blow over until the next thing happens. So when we're worried about things in the news, especially things that haven't happened or just sort of rumors, so like one or two Congress people might propose classifying all trans people as terrorists, which isn't even a legal thing, right? It might mean that there's more investigations and it might make our lives a lot harder, but it's presented on here and in other places as the start of this genocidal event that we have to flee the country because of. And maybe we do need to flee the country because things could get really bad. There are many states where we can't get needed hormones that our bodies require for us to live. So things have gotten really bad. But every time we hear something, it's like this scare event, right? So you have Nancy Mace and what's his name, the president's former Surgeon General, Ronnie Jackson, coming out trying to propose that we be institutionalized. That's not like a proposal that's going to go anywhere. It's possible Trump will try to push it, but it would actually have to get passed, or they'd have to do something. So people are not about to show up at our doors in the next couple of weeks. That doesn't mean we don't need to be afraid, but the news cycle is going to churn onwards, and we could be the targets of the next thing. There are still people being shoved into vans in LA, and they're going around to Home Depots. Although if you notice that, and this is sort of the unfortunate part and why I'm not that afraid to make videos these days, they're going after people who don't really exist for other people. So they're not going after celebrities. They're also sort of going after the most marginalized people they can. And I'm not just talking about marginalized communities. They're going after people who don't have a presence. So when they hit like a famous podcaster or something, that'll make a bigger impact on TikTok, and they're actually more likely to back off. And they're definitely not going after like gangs that have guns and things like that, because that would actually be pushback. So they're going around just sort of attacking people where people are going to hear it on the news and say it's awful, but you're not going to have that immediate pushback like you did with Jimmy Kimmel. So like someone getting taken into ICE custody and dying, and their kids being separated from them, and all these awful things that happen aren't going to matter as much as a celebrity, because everybody knows the celebrity and the amount of pushback is huge. Whereas if something really, truly inhumane and awful happens to someone who's not known, there isn't as much pushback, and then things can keep moving onwards. So, like, there is an element that, like, you might want to keep your head down to stay safe, but you also have to keep your head up to stay safe, because things can happen to you and nobody will know it. So, I don't know. I feel like everybody's panicking, but it's really hard to know what's real when the news cycle is unpredictable and it's driving the real world events, especially under Trump, who lives sort of off the news cycle. He lives off this idea of ratings and other things, and it's not operating off of, like, there's people behind him with really evil ideologies, but it's just sort of cycling on public reaction to things. So if 2 weeks from now Jimmy Kimmel gets his show back, will there be protests and outrage over the even worse things happening or not? We will see.